On October 8, 2023, just a day after a Hamas attack on Israel, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin ordered the Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group to the eastern Mediterranean in response. The group consisted of the aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. Ford, the cruiser Normandy, and the destroyers Carney, Ramage, Roosevelt, and Thomas Hudner. Their mission was to maintain stability in the region. About 10 days into their deployment, on October 19, 2023, the destroyer Carney intercepted 3 cruise missiles and 8 drones. Although the intended targets of these missiles and drones were unclear, Carney shot them down as they traveled north along the Red Sea toward Israel. Turns out, the attack was carried out by the Houthi militants in Yemen, and Carney wasn't done yet. Further investigation revealed that Carney had encountered an even larger and more sustained attack, ultimately shooting down 4 cruise missiles and 15 drones over a 9-hour period. This whole incident set off a chain reaction that eventually turned into a full-blown tiff between the US and the Houthis, throwing the already war-torn Middle East into further disarray. Hit that like button and subscribe as we delve into the details of what happens when Yemeni Houthi rebels attack Navy ships in the Red Sea. The Red Sea, nestled between Africa and Asia, is an arm of the Indian Ocean, linked to the Mediterranean Sea by the Suez Canal to the north and bordered by the Gulf of Aden to the south. Its global trade importance springs from several sources. Firstly, it acts as a vital sea route, connecting Europe to the Indian Ocean and beyond, serving as a critical crossroads for trade between the East and the West, offering a shortcut that avoids the lengthy journey around Africa's southern tip. Plus, the countries around it, like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Sudan, and Yemen, have decked it out with ports and stuff, making it a bustling trade hub. Around 35,000 ships, loaded with goods from Europe, Middle East, and Asia, sail through here each year, churning out about 12% of the world's cash flow. Because of all this, the Red Sea has become a hot potato in the global power game, with empires tugging at it for control. Whoever holds the reins here gets a big say in international trade and politics. No wonder tensions flare up over who gets to call the shots. Throughout history, countries with interests in the Red Sea region have worked to protect their strategic positions, access to resources, and influence over trade, a struggle that persists to this day. While numerous local and foreign heavyweights, including modern naval powers, have been manipulating the region's strategic moves, cloaking their true intentions in political and ideological rhetoric, emerging powerful independent militias have also entered the fray as contenders for influence in the region. One notable player in this arena is Yemen's infamous rebel group, the Houthis. The Yemeni civil war, which has lasted nearly a decade, has the Houthis as one of its main factions. Their story begins in the 1990s, when their leader, Hussein al-Houthi, initiated the Believing Youth religious revival movement. They rose up in opposition to Yemen's president, Ali Abdullah Saleh, calling him corrupt and claiming he was in cahoots with Saudi Arabia and the United States. The tension hit its peak in 2023 when Saleh backed the U.S. invasion of Iraq, sparking a major backlash from Yemenis. Al-Houthi saw his chance and organized massive protests. This led to a warrant for his arrest, but even after his death at the hands of the Yemeni forces in September 2024, the Houthi movement persisted and grew. By 2011, they had seized control of the northern province of Sa'da, calling for an end to Saleh's rule. Then, in 2014, they swooped into Yemen's capital, Sana'a, and even stormed the presidential palace the next year. Currently, the Houthis dominate most of Yemen, including Sana'a and the crucial port of Hodeidah, and their military strength has grown significantly. While some label them as proxies of Iran, many experts argue that while they have a mutually beneficial relationship with Iran, the Houthis pursue their own interests that often align with Iran's. They receive financial and military support from Tehran, including weapons and technology like sea mines, ballistic and cruise missiles, and unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs. This raises the question, just how powerful are the Houthi forces? American officials have been keeping tabs on the ongoing enhancements in the range, accuracy, and destructive power of the domestically produced missiles by the Houthis. Initially, these indigenous weapons were predominantly constructed using Iranian components clandestinely transported into Yemen in separate pieces. However, the Houthis have progressively upgraded these missiles, resulting in significant overall advancements. In a groundbreaking development, the Houthis utilize medium-range ballistic missiles to target Israel, launching a barrage of projectiles at the southern region of Eilat in early December of last year. While the Houthis may not currently pose a substantial direct threat, their technological capabilities have the potential to cause significant disruption in the Red Sea. They have also employed drones and anti-ship missiles to attack commercial vessels traveling through the Red Sea, prompting the USS Carney to intervene in response to distress signals. However, the recent conflict has deeper underlying motivations. Essentially, the Houthis' targeting of trade ships in the Red Sea is a retaliatory measure against Israel's military intervention in Gaza, which has resulted in a death toll exceeding 23,000 and triggered a humanitarian crisis. Following Israel's offensive act on October 7th, prompted by a brutal terrorist attack by the Palestinian militant group Hamas that claimed approximately 1,200 lives in Israel's southern region and took another 240 people hostage, the Houthis have explicitly stated their intention to target Israeli ships and any vessels traveling to or from Israel. Although the Houthis may lack the operational capabilities of organizations like Hamas and Hezbollah, their attacks on commercial vessels in the Red Sea are inflicting a different kind of damage on Israel and its allies. In the wake of USS Carney's interception of 4 cruise missiles and 15 drones on October 8th, things really started heating up. A month later, on November 8, 2023, an American MQ-9 Reaper met its demise when it was shot down by Houthi forces off the coast of Yemen. Deputy Pentagon Press Secretary Sabrina Singh revealed in a subsequent press conference that the Houthis had attempted to recover the drone, but the Pentagon believed they would not find anything of significance, and U.S. forces had no plans to retrieve it themselves. The tension escalated further on November 19th, as Houthi rebels seized a cargo ship in the Red Sea. Just 3 days later, on November 22nd, Thomas Hudner successfully intercepted multiple drones launched by Houthi groups. Continuing this pattern, on November 26th, Houthi forces attempted to seize an Israeli-affiliated ship near Yemen's coast, further heightening the maritime turmoil. As December arrived, the conflict reached a new level of intensity. On December 3, 2023, Carney and civilian-owned commercial ships came under attack in international waters in the southern Red Sea. Houthi rebels fired anti-ship ballistic missiles, striking 3 commercial ships. In response, Carney engaged in self-defense, downing 3 drones during the prolonged assault. The United States Central Command attributed these attacks to the Houthis in Yemen, but expressed strong suspicion that Iran was behind the enabling of these assaults. The month witnessed another significant event on December 16th, when Carney, operating in the Red Sea, successfully intercepted a barrage of 14 unmanned aerial systems, or UAS, one-way attack drones launched from Houthi-controlled areas of Yemen. The Houthis have made it clear that they won't back down until Israel permits the entry of food and medicine into Gaza. Some suggest that championing the Palestinian cause might also be a strategy to gain legitimacy at home and in the region as they consolidate their control over northern Yemen. This stance could also position them favorably against their Arab rivals, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, whom they accuse of serving U.S. and Israeli interests. Regardless of their true motives, one thing is certain: the Houthi forces have made a significant impact in the financial arena, despite their potential inability to confront the powerful naval forces of the West. The potential impact of these attacks can be starkly illustrated by an incident in 2021, when the Ever Given, a ship that ran aground in the Suez Canal, disrupted a vital trade route for nearly a week. This blockage, which held up an estimated $10 billion in cargo each day, caused extensive disruptions to global supply chains that reverberated long after the ship was freed. Now, with the Houthi drone and missile attacks against commercial vessels occurring almost daily since December 9th, there are growing concerns that the world economy could face an even more severe shock. This fear has prompted 4 of the world's 5 major shipping firms, Maersk, Hapag-Lloyd, CMA CGM Group, and Evergreen, to announce a pause in shipping through the Red Sea, with the oil giant BP following suit. Such a move could also lead to a surge in oil and gas prices. These attacks may compel ships to take longer routes around Africa, leading to increased insurance costs. Companies may pass on these additional expenses to consumers, further exacerbating the post-pandemic inflation the governments worldwide are already struggling to contain. In response to mounting threats, on December 19, 2023, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin announced the formation of a coalition consisting of 10 nations aimed at combating attacks on shipping in the Red Sea. Within just 2 days, this coalition gained the support of 20 nations, including allies from Europe and the Middle East, as well as Canada and Australia. Dubbed as Operation Prosperity Guardian, or OPG, this United States Navy-led coalition was created to ensure the safe passage of international shipping through the Red Sea. However, the U.S. is treading lightly to avoid tangling directly with Iran and stoking further chaos in the already turbulent Middle East. Despite trying to talk sense into regional powers and urging Israel to ease civilian suffering and end the conflict as soon as possible, their efforts have hit a wall. The other side seems bent on ramping up maritime threats, leaving the U.S. with few options to keep the peace without ruffling feathers. In this kind of situation, one way to go is by dusting off the good centuries-old tactic of sailing in convoys, with some big warships for protection. In a convoy, slow and vulnerable commercial ships sail in columns with precise distances between them, escorted by fast warships capable of defending against threats. This system has proven effective historically, with countries like the United Kingdom, Russia, and Malta benefiting from convoy protection during World War II. But like everything else, there are downsides. Convoys are huge and clunky, stretching for miles to keep those massive ships safe and give them room to maneuver if needed. And no matter how much you armor them up, those colossal tankers and container carriers over 300 meters are still juicy targets. The captains of these ships aren't exactly convoy experts, and most haven't wrangled their way through a fleet or taken orders from the military. Then there are the escorts, armed to the teeth, but sometimes with a limited number of missiles. They've got to be tactical about when to use them, leaving them vulnerable to follow-up attacks and saving a few for when things get hairy. Once they've fired off some missiles, they'll need to restock, which is doable at sea, but way easier and safer in a friendly port away from Houthi missiles. So, to cover the critical 250 nautical miles near Yemen's coast around the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, moving at a steady 15 knots, ships would be exposed to Houthi missiles and drones for a grueling 16 hours. And before they even set off, they'd be sitting ducks in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, where they'd gather and form the convoy. Therefore, knowing all this, the OPG coalition forces had no choice but to face the music and deal with the threat head-on, especially since the Houthis show no signs of backing down anytime soon. As things stand, all the missiles taken out by US and French warships were knocked down by the shipborne surface-to-air missiles. This proves that those high-tech vertical launch systems, guided by the latest generation of phased array radars, are doing their job. But the real game-changer would be bringing in the big guns, combat aircraft and bombers from the U.S. Navy nuclear carriers in the region. But that move could easily fan the flames of conflict even further. That's got the White House and the Pentagon walking on coals. If they sit tight, the Red Sea route could slam shut, dealing a hefty blow to the U.S., European, and Asian economies. On the flip side, if their current half-baked plans, like just escorting convoys without taking out those land-based missile sites, don't generate safe passage, it's a major loss of face and a failure to prevent an economic nosedive. And if the U.S. is forced into a full-scale attack, they'll have played a direct part in a dangerous escalation that might be tough to rein in. With all these headaches in mind, France, Italy, and Spain are playing it safe. They're unilaterally sending their frigates to the Red Sea to protect their own ships. And if the U.S. Navy ends up going after Yemen, the Europeans can wash their hands of any blame, saying they didn't add fuel to the fire, dumping all the responsibility on the U.S. The incident toll in the Red Sea is on the rise as the Houthis ramp up their attacks in response to Israel's actions in Gaza. On December 31st, 2023, the Maersk Hangzhou, a container ship, found itself under attack by 4 Houthi ships. Shots were fired, and there were attempts to board the Maersk Hangzhou. Fortunately, the ship had a security team on board that fought back, and the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower and USS Gravely rushed to help after a distress call. Verbal warnings were issued to the attackers, and U.S. Navy helicopters were sent out. But when the helicopters faced gunfire, they returned fire, sinking 3 of the Houthi ships without any harm to U.S. personnel or equipment. Now the big question is, how should the U.S. respond to the Houthis? Should they go all in for a full-on confrontation, or should they avoid further destabilizing an already troubled region? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll catch you in the next one.